The first one is stroke. Don't write the words though, write the symbols. Stroke. Leave a space. Curve, dash. Leave a space. Curve, curve. Leave a space. Stroke, dash, stroke. Leave a space. Dash, stroke, curve. These are the words I heard from my daughter today as I was finishing. But you know one thing I discovered? People may write things down, but if you don't understand it, there's no way you can interpret it. Should I interpret what my daughter was writing? Stroke, 1. Curve dash, 2. Curve curve, 3. Stroke, 4. Stroke, dash, stroke. 5. Dash, stroke, curve. Today I learned the origin of how numbers were written. From a 3.5-year-old. I never knew that before. So when you rearrange what you have written down, it now begins to make sense. Read it as long as you want. If you do not understand what you are reading, it will never make sense. Let me give you another analogy. As Pastor was preaching, today has been amazing. As he was preaching, he said something that I just saw a vision. Just as he was preaching, he said, the words of Jesus are what? Final. Do you know what final means? Final means it cannot be changed. It is final. And the vision showed me that what if Jesus' words is like air? When God filled the earth with air, was it final? Was it final? It is final. Air is still here. Has air left? Can we do without air? Air. The air we breathe. And I saw that revelation where I saw that if you don't, Jesus' words, the place of prayer is when you begin to take Jesus' words and you begin to stir it up. Because if you want to topple this stand, unless you touch it, the only thing that can topple it is wind. What does that mean? When you want to manifest something you can't see, you need to stir it up. And the amount of stirring up, the power of it, is what can fall this thing down. Is what can topple buildings. But the air, did you see it? Can you see it? Wind is what makes you feel there is air. Prayer is what stirs up like wind. And so if you do not begin to understand that the faith you have in things around you is manifested by prayer, and the movement, when things move, is when you believe that there was wind that moved things around. I'm laying those foundations for what I believe is very, very important for our teaching today. To one of Bishop Bismarck's preachings today. And he said some important things. He said, Solomon never really prayed for wisdom. He prayed for understanding. With my daughter, I couldn't use wisdom at that point. I just sought to understand what she was saying and what she was doing. She was writing 1 to 5, but the words didn't make sense to me. I understood what she was doing. Let me tell you something else. Today when I listened to Pastor, I decided to ask a question here. Because one thing about speaking is that you must know who you are talking to. Is this correct? So who am I talking to? Am I talking to a congregation? Or I'm talking to a set of leaders? Which one? A set of leaders. Because from the way he spoke, he was talking to people that look like you're going to go out there in the world and conquer. Am I right? So, I'm speaking to leaders here. So what I have, my message today, funny enough, is for leaders. So everything I say, please think of it at the high level, not at the lower level. The title of my text is Understanding Money. That is the way I've always taught. Understanding. Why did I call it Nigerian money? Understand one thing. Nigerian money can be different from other money. Is that right or wrong? You know what? One day I asked myself, why didn't I name my series Understanding Nigerian Naira? You know why? Because Nigeria is not just Naira, it's dollars, it's pounds. And some even not even currency. So, I was looking at the, did I put up the, I was looking at the title screen, Understanding Nigerian Money. It was that, my title again and said, Understanding. Of that problem. Do you know that all pilots bring out the manual immediately a problem happens? Can you believe that when the plane is going down, do you know that the pilot is reading? Are you aware? No human can remember the sequence of how to start a plane. That's why if you watch some movies, it is check this. You must list all the items you must do under learning. Because learning is where understanding comes from. How do you go into a business that you do not understand? Are you getting me? What you call the earning checklist. You want to earn money, isn't it? What are the items you do to earn money? How do you do it? Okay, bank account. I need to make sure I have a bank account. For some people, how many people have passports here? Less than 10%. A passport is a prayer. A passport is faith. If you are not going anywhere, you don't need a passport. But if you are going somewhere, the first step on your checklist, get a passport. Let me tell you something. As Pastor Dele was talking that time, one of the things I invest in is travel. You know why I invest in it? First of all, I don't call it holiday. I call it learning. Because whenever I travel, I see things to come that those that have not traveled amongst you will see many years later. How many people know what a flash drive is? No, wait now. How many people know what a flash drive is? How many of you have a flash drive 16 gig and above? When did you first see a 16 gig flash drive? Sorry? 2013. I saw my first 16 gig flash drive in 2004. 2004 in Malaysia was when I saw my first 16 gig flash drive. Do you get what I'm saying? The first time I saw, you know, TVs today, they call it LED. I saw LED in 2006. When I travel, I go and experience technologies that are yet to come. Because we are behind in Africa. And if you experience things that are yet to come, you'll probably be one of the first to bring it to this country. I saw a solar-powered AC almost 4 years ago. Doesn't use electricity, solar. Your room is cold. You know it will bring a new type of feeling. You are shivering in your room and there's no light. And there's no gen. Things that are to come. I have seen the flexiglass. Do you know what they call the flexiglass? A display screen that can bend. It's coming. How you know things, how they've been, will soon change. The people that make the most money in this country are the people that are at the forefront of what is to come, who are prepared. If I knew when Jesus was coming, January 2014, I have a group that I'm part of, and I sent out a prophecy, as Pastor Dele will call it. And I said, all of you, go and open foreign accounts. And somebody said, you're a messenger of doom. And I said, no, I'm only telling the few of you here that are privileged to know what is coming. One man, my next opposite me, changed $200,000 from Naira to dollars and kept it. He said, Dami said so. He changed it at 161. I don't think I need to explain to you how he feels today. Money he worked hard for. He didn't steal the money, but the money he has now, he did not work hard. But he understood and took a decision. Do you understand what I'm saying? You see, if you don't read your environment and read what's going on, you find out that you may be some of the last to lose, or last people. And we'll come to Nigeria very soon. But let me quickly run through the features of a checklist. Number one, that's why I was very happy when Pastor Poju was talking. A checklist must not be disjointed. It's like a father and son relationship. It must be linked. You see, whenever you do a checklist in business, everything must be linked. That's why sometimes when some people do some crazy things in business, the business goes down and people are wondering, how did it go down? As a consultant, I can easily tell you how your company went down. Easily. All I have to do is look for a disjointed member on your list. That's all. A disjointed checklist can be found where processes cannot be optimized. Let me quickly explain that process optimization. Another word for process optimization is how can you do things better? Let me do a dangerous thing. Let's apply a checklist to a church. Do you know that if you don't seek to optimize in running a church, you may lose out? That's what Pastor Poju was saying. A church, so the first thing you do in a church, in establishing a church, is structural checklist. Am I correct? That's when he was talking. I said, who am I talking to here? When you want to start a church or start a ministry, your structural checklist must be sound. The departments and everything must be connected and sound. Then the second thing is the processes. Under each of the departments, you must determine processes that work. Is that true? The third is what I call optimization. Let me tell you something. Today, the most common preachings. I started my first company at the age of, 16, 17? I've been working for more than 20-something years now. And where I'm going, at least, God willing, I still have about 5-6 years more to go. But that checklist of items, let me tell you something. One of the things that makes me happy is that while I'm doing what I'm doing, on the way to where I'm going, my life checklist, I've been ticking it off. I dreamt one day I'll buy a Porsche and drive. Yes, I've checked it. I've dreamt one day I'll buy, I think everything. One day I saw Tinubu passing, and I said, wow, just because of that car, look at how everybody's just. So I put it on my checklist for that year. And before the end of the year, I bought my first G-Wagon. And I too tried it. I drove to government house. They opened the gate. Hey. Now so they walk. Never stopped by police once, ever. Until one day, my wife took out this car. And she parked. First of all, we used to love taking it to church in those days because they would allow us to park in front. Two things happened. Number one, we went separately in two different cars. I took the G-Wagon, she took the normal car. I called all the rest normal cars. That time, our church was in Oriental. How many people know Oriental Hotel? You know that upper part? So me, I parked there. And then my wife following me, parked beside me. And the security man, no. And they started, and she said, no, that is my husband beside you. I'm parking beside my husband. They said, madam, that not your husband, no be you. I beg, come out this car. But then I understood. Let me tell you something. Don't be fooled though. I didn't buy that car to be posing around town. I understood what it meant to have access for the business I was doing. Today I don't need that access, so I don't need the car because I've gotten my access. But there was a time when I needed that car to get the access I needed. The second time, so my wife was very angry. She got into, I said, Madam, we're going into church and you're saying these kind of words. Please, okay, you know what? Take the key. Let me enter. So I took the car, I went to park, and she held the key. And I said, okay, when we're coming back out, I'm not even... The second time, my wife went out somewhere. She parked. She rushed in to buy something. As she was coming back out, one young lady was putting her number on a piece of paper and sticking it on the windscreen. And my wife came. Useless girl. Useless. Is that how all of you do? Eh? You are looking for you. How do you? She shouted. She did it. The girl looked at her. Shall I take the paper and give your husband? A week later, no joke, a week later I was forced to sell that car. That was the end of the car. My wife said, is this the effect? What was the negative? I tried to explain to her that you see all these deals I'm getting. No. As far as she's concerned, we can make money another way, not this way. And that was the end of the car. You see, while you are pursuing the serious checklists, please make sure you are achieving the living checklists. It's important. Do things based on your... Let me tell you something. Whenever I get... Do you know that for the last 7 years, if I walk out of here now and I see somebody and I give that person 2,000 naira, it's on an Excel sheet in my house. I can tell you to the last kobo how much I spend a year. I know to the last kobo. Any money that comes out of my pocket goes into an Excel sheet. I know exactly how much I have spent this year till October 21. I know. I write it down. I don't miss it. Because when I'm planning and I'm putting things on my checklist, I'm looking at what happened last year. I can predict what's going to happen next year. When I say to myself, I want my business to bring me X amount, it will dictate how I'm going to move. It is the items on your checklists that makes you move. If you don't write it down and put it there, you just find out that when money comes, you just... Every time money enters my hand, it's... In Yoruba they say, Oti Loluwa already. I already know where that money is going. No diversion, no nothing. That's the way I work. Discipline. Discipline. You must put things on your checklist. Because if you don't, you'll not be. Let me tell you something about understanding. And I just took a note of this. How many people know Donald Trump? Let me tell you something. Like him, hate him, do whatever you want to do, say whatever you want. That man understands a few things. He understands the power of TV. He understands how Americans think. That man understands properties, the property business. He shows what you would call understanding. When you just wake up, somebody of that character wakes up and says, I want to be president. And asks himself, what's the cheapest way so that the media, I won't spend money on ads, just be saying crazy things. Let me tell you something. Every crazy thing Donald Trump has said, he planned it years ago. It's a checklist. Exactly. You're getting it. See, look, the things that will still come out is on a checklist. How he plans to win the election is on a checklist. And he's just ticking 1, 2, he's just ticking them off. Don't think people act just anyway. Everything you see in Nigeria today is on somebody's checklist. Buhari came to this country with a checklist. Do this, do that. Although I don't want to imagine what's on that checklist, but do you understand how things begin to work? You see, let me quickly divert into Nigeria. Everybody is saying the word recession. Abi? Eh? Do you know what we're experiencing? It's called a dollar recession. The man just shut the gates on dollar. And the whole country has gone upside down. You know what we're going to realize? Wait a minute. Nigerians, how many things truly depend on dollar? Let me tell you something. I heard from a source that every time there's that conversation about the country, Buhari is always asking, please, just tell me what are those key things we need to appropriate dollars for so that we can. Let me tell you something. 2 weeks ago, Zenith Bank published the list of their dollar trades. I don't know whether anybody saw it. If you saw that list and you are the president, you say you are doing the right thing. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying if you saw that list. Living expense for my son in London, $60-something thousand. School fees for my kiniko. Hardly any real business concerns. People are just going to the bank to look for dollars for personal things. Personal things. Let me tell you something. Let me give you a glimpse of where Buhari is going. I don't know whether it makes sense, because I'll give you one analogy. Nigeria is almost like, I'm not saying it is like, but it's almost like a plane that has lost its engines in the air. But the pilot can see the runway. And the pilot is just praying that the plane can just glide and make that runway and will land and all be safe. Because if we don't make that runway, what's going to happen? We'll crash. That's a little like what is going on now. You see, the truth is, the man has said, I'm going to force Nigerians to reevaluate how they think. Are we all forgetting? Do you know today, look at this whole building. Is it a nice building? Go and let me hear that the person that built this building did not use Nigerian wire and cable. Let this building burn down. Do you know what? The first question they ask is, where did you buy your wires? If he says, I imported it, no insurance company is going to give him any insurance on this building. They'll say, why didn't you use Nigerian wire and cable? There was a time when nobody bought Nigerian wire. Today is the best. There was a time when nobody thought of growing rice. Have you seen the super erupting rice farms in Nigeria now? How much is a bag of Nigerian rice now? 18? No, it's less than that now. It's less than that. Nigerian rice is coming down every day. Wait till Dangote's own comes out. It's coming out at 9,000 naira. And then some people now are tasting Nigerian rice and saying, it's not bad though. So to a large extent, we have a president who is forcing everybody to say, if you cannot import it, then you start making it. And it starts like that. Is it painful? Very painful. It is paining us. But do you know one thing? You guys should understand one thing. What is the official denomination of exchange rate of the Naira today? Official World Bank. It's still 199. It's still 199. We say we're in recession. We say things are terrible. But your official exchange rate is still 199. Let me tell you something. The day they move to 300, dollar will be 1,000. But there's some term economists use. They said it is self-inflicted recession. It is the better form of recession because we are the ones that are causing it. Which means any day we can remove it. You see, when they say that your money is worthless, that's the one where you are all in trouble. Or we are all in trouble. But today, dollar is this, dollar is that, is only in the shores of Nigeria. But there are casualties, of course. There are casualties. Airlines are leaving, things are expensive, blah, blah, blah. But it is a time now when people are forced to ask themselves a question. Do we really need this thing? What are the alternatives? I remember my wife has a bakery. Before imported flour all the time. Then she started researching and suddenly discovered that cassava flour exists. Suddenly started seeing that actually we have cassava in Nigeria. Why can't we make cassava flour? Are you beginning to understand? But it is a painful process and be diverted. And that's where prayer comes in for this country. That we pray that we get it right. Because it is possible to get it wrong. But God will help all of us. Now, when we look at it, let me tell you something. For those of you that want to go into business, you will now find out that people have their checklists, don't they? At Pastor D's birthday last, I talked briefly about what I call the 5 whys. How many people are there? Not too many people. Okay. In going into business today, there's a principle called the 5 whys. We'll go into tweaking again soon, but let's go into the 5 whys. I want to sell a wristwatch to Pastor Dele. Pastor Dele, come and buy this wristwatch. What does he say? It's a nice wristwatch. It was made by the most expensive designer in the world. If you are trying to sell something to somebody and you pass the 3rd why, he's not going to buy. Today, this period of all periods, people are going through what I call the 5 whys. Why? Why must I buy? Why? Why is it the best? Why? 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 Good products that will stand in Nigeria today will pass. On the third why, people will take a decision to buy. Is this clear? Do you get the concept? Anything you want to buy today now, use yourself as an example. Ask yourself why. Why do I need it? Why is it important? If it passes the third why and it still seems strong, do it. Now take yourself on the other side. What are those businesses you go into that will pass the whys? Now we're going into the interesting part now. Let's look at people's checklists. The average Nigerian was on their checklist. Number one, I think, communication. Is communication on your checklist? How many people don't have phones here? You don't have a phone. Who has two phones? What am I saying? Communication is the number one item on everybody's checklist today. If you lose your phone, you will see that the most important thing you want to do is replace that phone. So communication is number one on everybody's checklists. Number two, food. Anybody in food business, your business is recession proof. Why? People must eat. But then, that food must go through the 5 whys. There's a difference between I sell amala and I sell Chinese. Are you getting it? Number 3 is shelter. You must live somewhere. So please, even in times of recession, if you see people building houses, they are not mad. The ones that were living in 3 million naira a year house will go to the one that is in 2 million. The ones that were in 2 million will go to 1 million in terms of hardship. But nobody is going to say, I don't want a house anymore. Or are there people? Number 4, amazingly, to me, fashion and clothing. Because of recession, we will not wear clothes. You wear now. Number 5, transportation. Let me tell you something. While people are saying times are tough, this is the time people are making money in transportation. More people are entering bus to Benin than flying today. More people are patronizing local transport. Country transport than before today. Those people, this is their own, how should I put it? This is their own time. Are you getting it? Religion is on everybody's checklist. I must go to church. Okay. Time. Okay. Let's move fast. Then number 7, people and family. Do you all have that checklist? Let me quickly go into something. Do you all know the word outsourcing? What's outsourcing? When you want somebody else to do something that won't be done by you. Let me quickly tell you something about a new word. To me, that word should have come before, but the time was not right. The new word is called on demand. Three key words, I'm going to write it down. Ownership, outsourcing, on demand. Now, let's quickly rush through it. Ownership is when you decide, I want to sow this material. Right? You own it. You've bought it.